This is TWiT.
Huawei's chairman says Apple is my teacher. I don't know if Apple should celebrate that. He's saying if, the same thing could happen in Apple. China could ban Apple. What would happen then?
I had Ben Beharin on Vector earlier this week, and I asked him the same question, and he gave me a really interesting answer because he's done a ton of research on topics like that. And he said that if you go down to Shenzhen and Guangdong, so much of their employment, their GDP is based on Apple's business, all the manufacturing, all the parts, all the suppliers, that it would be incredibly difficult, harmful, and damaging for China to mess with Apple because it would be literally just tons of people unemployed.
That didn't stop us from messing with China.
But we don't have the same problem. We're
not completely dependent on China.
The soybean farmers, yeah, those things. But the manufacturing industry, Apple just and even if they try to stop or tariff too high Apple phones, Apple stops making them. That again increases unemployment in provinces where China is desperately trying to increase the economy and increase the employment.
Trade war has collateral damage everywhere. It's a nasty thing.
It would hurt a lot of people.
And I just hope that there is a reason for banning Huawei that has to do with national security, not trade, that it's not a political decision. Although the president's really muddied the waters because in one sentence, he said, yeah, it's because we don't trust Huawei, but if they made a trade deal, we would trust them again.
The two things aren't, so the way I look at it, there are two things. You have the people who do InfoSec, and they are very serious about the fact that by the time you detect a backdoor, it is already too late. It would be pervasive.
Right.
And all of that is one thing. But then you have the politicians who look at the very real security stuff and use that as part of their leverage in negotiations. And they can choose to believe or disbelieve or implement or not implement what is very real security information, depending on how they want to go politically. So I think they're both separate separate facets.
And for the record, the worries about Huawei and their level of involvement with the Chinese government, including possible partial ownership from the Chinese government, that's been going on for 10 years. This is not just something that the Trump administration has latched onto. So I can't speak to their specific motivations for taking this particular action at this particular time. But this has been something that's been this has been a what should we do about this company problem for a long time.
Well, and much of what you say about Huawei, you could say about any Chinese company doing business in the United States. Are you going to cut them all off? It's pretty selective. They pretty much shut down ZTE last year. They're about to shut Huawei out of business.
The big problem is that there are only 3 companies that are competing to build out the worldwide 5G network, and because Huawei has both incredibly good 5G hardware technology, and it's much cheaper than what you're going to get from like Ericsson. If there were an optimum time to settle this issue and stop Huawei from creating, as Renee said, the possibility of a hugely compromised worldwide network, this would be the last window in which to pursue that.
True. I don't know what to say. Remember though, Andy, it's not just 5G at this point. Now they're really killing Huawei as a phone manufacturer as well.
The ARM thing, I mean, they can engineer around Android, but they, as far as I know, they cannot engineer around ARM.
Right. So ARM's pulled out, Qualcomm's pulled out, Google's pulled out. There is a 3-month, period of time. I think there are probably going to be a lot of P20. I know there are a lot of P20s and other Huawei phones on eBay right now, very cheap. If you want to pick one up, just remember you're never going to get updates again.
We were talking to our Android Central team, and they said that it's completely unknown whether this ban applies to the Mate 10, because does it apply only to phones that were shipping as of May 15th, or whatever the deadline was, or phones that have been announced by then, and they're going to have to go to court to figure out what can be shipped and what can't be shipped, and that's horribly messy.
It's messy in general, and J.P. Morgan said today that one of the consequences will be a severe drop in iPhone sales in China because one of the reactions from the Chinese people is kind of circling the wagons around Huawei.
Yeah.
They expect Huawei phone sales to go up considerably in China, which will cause sales, according to J.P. Morgan, of less than half of the iPhones sold in 2015. So a big drop, potentially a big drop in China. So there's lots of collateral damage with a trade war. I agree with you, Andy. Security is paramount. And the problem is I don't think anybody has enough, except people in the administration and the defense intelligence community. I don't think anybody else has enough information to know whether this is about security or about trade. It's just unclear. And at some point, the problem is much more than just one company in China, and that's the other issue. I don't know what we do at this point. I really don't.